What if one of the most peaceful shows in television history was quietly hiding some genuinely strange stories behind its wholesome small-town surface? A mysterious background character who appeared for years and whose identity has never been confirmed. A future Hollywood director throwing rocks that a child could not reach. A lead actor who punched a wall hard enough to break bones and needed the writers to cover for him. The Andy Griffith Show looked like Mayberry, simple, warm, and uncomplicated. But the real story behind 8 seasons of that show was considerably stranger than anything that happened on the front porch of the sheriff's office. Here are 15 weird facts about the Andy Griffith Show 1960 you didn't know. Fact 15. Nobody has ever identified Mr. Schwamp. Throughout the run of the Andy Griffith Show, a middle-aged man with obviously artificial dark hair would appear in random episodes without explanation. He was never a featured guest, never involved in any storyline, and never given any dialogue. He simply existed in the background of crowd scenes or sat quietly on a park bench while life in Mayberry continued around him. When Andy or Barney spotted him, they would acknowledge him with a brief greeting. He would nod in return, and the scene would move on. The character became known as Mr. Schwamp because of those brief acknowledgments from the main cast. Fans who watched the show closely began to notice his recurring presence and started asking questions that nobody on the production side ever answered. He appeared in multiple episodes of The Andy Griffith Show and even turned up in 2 episodes of the spin-off series Gomer Pyle, USMC. His name never appeared in any credits across either series. Among the weird facts about The Andy Griffith Show 1960, this one has the longest active investigation attached to it. Dedicated fans and television historians have spent decades trying to identify the actor without success. No cast or crew member from the production has ever come forward with a verified answer. The Andy Griffith Show Rerun Watchers Club staged an April Fool's prank in 2012, claiming they had identified him as an actor named Patch S. Wimple, which turned out to be entirely fabricated. The hoax worked well enough that it circulated for years before being fully debunked. That it fooled people so completely suggests how genuine the desire for an answer actually is among the show's dedicated audience. People want this mystery solved badly enough that a fictional solution spread further and faster than the admission that it was invented. Mr. Schwamp remains unidentified. He appeared in one of the most documented television productions of the 1960s, in episodes that have been studied and cataloged for decades, and nobody has ever placed a verified name next to his face. That is a specific kind of mystery that classic television does not produce often, and this show produced one that has outlasted everyone who might have known the answer. Before moving ahead, take a quick second to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for the next story. Fact 14. Fans mailed real bullets to Don Knotts. The running joke that Deputy Barney Fife was only permitted to carry 1 bullet kept in his shirt pocket rather than his gun was one of the show's most reliable comedic devices. It made complete sense within the logic of the character. Barney's track record with firearms included accidentally discharging his weapon into courthouse ceilings and firing it while it was still in the holster. Andy's decision to limit him to a single bullet was the most reasonable safety measure available under the circumstances. American viewers, however, were apparently genuinely concerned about the deputy's firepower situation and decided to do something about it. Fans across the country began mailing real ammunition directly to Don Knotts, apparently feeling that if the fictional sheriff would not properly arm his deputy, the audience would step in. According to accounts from people who worked with the production and traveled with Knotts during the show's run, the mail campaign was consistent and came from a specific demographic with particular frequency. Among the weird facts about the Andy Griffith Show 1960, this one has the most unexpected demographic detail attached to it. Law enforcement officers were reportedly among the most frequent contributors to the ammunition deliveries. Police officers would approach Knotts at public appearances and present him with bullets in person, apparently feeling a professional obligation to ensure that a fellow officer, even a fictional one, was properly equipped for duty. The public appearances themselves were events of a scale that is difficult to imagine today. Knotts drew crowds that lined up for 3 city blocks for autographs, with every person claiming to be his biggest fan. Police officers would join those lines carrying ammunition as their personal contribution to solving Barney's permanent shortage. Knotts accumulated quite a collection of unwanted live ammunition through this process. The combination of fan mail, personal deliveries from law enforcement, and the general public's apparent belief that a fictional character's bullet supply was a solvable, real-world problem made his fan experience one of the stranger ones in 1960s television. Fact 13. A hidden crew member threw the rock in the opening credits. The opening sequence of The Andy Griffith Show is one of the most recognized images in television history. Andy Taylor and young Opie walking a dirt path toward a peaceful lake, fishing poles in hand, with with Opie skipping a stone across the water before the shot settles into the show's iconic closing image. It is simple, warm, and apparently effortless. The stone skip required a hidden crew member and a carefully timed deception. The sequence was filmed at Franklin Canyon Park at the eastern end of the Santa Monica Mountains in California. When it came time to capture Opie throwing the stone into the lake, the production discovered the problem immediately. Ron Howard was 6 years old and simply did not have the arm strength to throw a rock far enough to reach the water from the camera position. Multiple attempts left the crew running behind schedule and the young actor frustrated without a usable shot. Among the weird facts about the Andy Griffith Show, 1960, the solution was straightforward but required keeping a secret for decades. The crew positioned a prop man behind a bush at an angle that kept him completely out of the camera's frame. When the scene rolled, Howard went through the physical motion of throwing the stone, while the hidden crew member simultaneously threw the actual rock into the lake, producing the splash that appeared on screen. The timing between Howard's throwing motion and the splash is not perfectly synchronized if you watch the sequence carefully today. There is a subtle lag between the moment Opie appears to release the stone and the moment the water surface responds. For decades, viewers watched this sequence without noticing anything unusual because the image was so familiar and the moment moved by so quickly. The opening that established the show's entire emotional tone required a grown man hiding behind a bush to throw a rock on cue while a 6-year-old pretended to do it. That is the production reality behind one of television's most beloved images, and it remained a behind-the-scenes secret for years after the show ended. Fact 12. Howard McNear was secretly supported by a hidden stand. In early 1963, during the show's third season, actor Howard McNear suffered a severe stroke that left the entire left side of his body paralyzed. He was the actor who played Floyd Lawson, the barber whose gentle, bumbling, and mild confusion had become one of the show's most reliable sources of warmth and comedy. The stroke forced him to leave production for nearly 2 years, and his absence created a gap in the show's ensemble that the cast and writers felt clearly. When the writers were working through scripts that needed Floyd and struggling without him, producer Aaron Rubin expressed during a meeting how much they missed what McNear brought to the show. That comment prompted someone to call McNear's home to find out whether he might be interested in returning despite his physical limitations. His wife told the producers that returning to work would be exactly what her husband needed. The production team committed to making it possible. Among the weird facts about the Andy Griffith Show, 1960, this one involves a level of accommodation for a supporting player that was unusual for 1960s television. The crew built specialized chairs and constructed hidden standing supports that could hold McNear upright behind the barber chair when scenes required Floyd to appear standing. The supports kept him stable while leaving his hands visible and his expression free to carry the performance. Andy Griffith later explained the arrangement directly, describing how they could position McNear sitting or use the constructed stand to support him behind the barber chair so he could use his functional hand. The commitment to keeping McNear in the show was not about what he could do physically. It was about what he brought to the ensemble that nobody else could replace. If you watch Floyd's appearances across seasons 4 through 7, the choices made around him are visible once you know what to look for. He is almost always seated, his left hand holding a newspaper or resting in his lap, his gestures coming entirely from the right side. The show built its staging around a man recovering from a stroke because the people making it decided his presence was worth the effort. Fact 11. Andy Griffith slept in dresser drawers as a baby. Andy Griffith was born in 1,926 inches, Mount Airy, North Carolina, at a moment in American history when the Great Depression had stripped economic stability from working-class families across the rural South in ways that are difficult to fully account for today. The Griffith family's circumstances during his earliest years reflected the depth of that hardship in a detail that stayed with Griffith long enough that he discussed it publicly decades after the fact. His family could not afford a crib. The solution his parents found was to convert dresser drawers into sleeping quarters, lining them with blankets to create a space soft enough for an infant. This was not a temporary arrangement while they saved for proper furniture. It was simply where Andy Griffith slept during his earliest childhood, a practical response to circumstances that left his family without the money for what most people would consider a basic necessity. Among the weird facts about the Andy Griffith Show, 1960, this one provides the deepest context for the character. Griffith would eventually spend 8 seasons playing. Andy Taylor's comfort with modest living, his easy relationship with simplicity and small-town resourcefulness, his lack of pretension about material things, came from a man who had grown up without them. That quality was not performed. It was drawn from somewhere real. Don Knotts shared a similar background. Both men had grown up in poverty during the Depression years, and both carried that experience into a professional friendship that viewers could sense on screen without being able to name exactly what they were responding to. The ease between Andy and Barney had a root that went deeper than good casting. Griffith's success represented a distance from those dresser-drawer years that was genuinely enormous. The man who became one of the most recognized faces in American television had started in a converted drawer because his family could not afford anything else. That gap between origin and outcome shaped what he brought to a character who was always at his core, a man who had never forgotten where he came from. Fact 10. The theme song originally had lyrics. The whistled melody that opens every episode of The Andy Griffith Show is one of the most immediately recognizable sounds in the history of American television. 8 notes in, and most people who grew up watching the show know exactly what they are hearing. The tune feels inseparable from the image of Andy and Opie walking toward the lake, from the pace of life in Mayberry, and from the show's entire emotional register. Almost nobody knows it was written to be sung. The song, officially titled The Fishing Hole, was composed by Earl Hagen and Herbert Spencer, with a full set of lyrics written by Everett Sloan. It was a complete song, with words that described the simple pleasures of fishing and small-town living. The creative team had to decide whether to use the vocal version or the instrumental whistling arrangement during the show's development, and they concluded that whistling captured the show's easygoing quality more effectively than having someone sing the words over the opening image. Among the weird facts about The Andy Griffith Show, 1960, this one has a coda that most people have never encountered. Earl Hagen himself performed the whistling that became synonymous with the show, and Andy Griffith actually recorded a complete vocal version of the song with all of Sloan's original lyrics intact. That recording exists and can be found today on various platforms. Hearing Griffith sing the familiar melody with actual words is one of those experiences that feels both natural and slightly wrong at the same time. His voice fits the material perfectly. The song works as a song. But it also immediately clarifies why the producers made the choice they did. The whistled version leaves space. It suggests rather than states. A sung version would have told viewers what the show was about. The whistled version let them feel it instead, and the difference between those two approaches was the difference between a theme song people tolerate and one they remember for 60 years. Fact 9. Barney's bullet loading was always wrong. One of the show's most beloved recurring images was Barney Fife nervously loading his single permitted bullet into his revolver during moments of perceived danger. The fumbling hands, the concentrated expression, the careful placement of the bullet into the chamber aligned with the barrel. It appeared in multiple episodes and became one of the visual signatures of the character. Gun enthusiasts have been pointing out for decades that the loading method Barney used would never have worked. When a revolver's hammer is pulled back or the trigger is pulled, the cylinder rotates automatically, moving the next chamber into alignment with the barrel. This means that placing a bullet directly into the chamber, already aligned with the barrel, would immediately move that bullet out of firing position the moment the gun was prepared to fire. Barney's method of careful loading would result, in every instance, in the bullet being positioned in the wrong chamber at the moment of use. Among the weird facts about The Andy Griffith Show, 1960, this one reveals something true about how television comedy actually works. The loading method was chosen because it was visually legible. Placing the bullet directly into the visible, forward-facing chamber communicated clearly to audiences what was happening. The technically correct loading procedure would have been harder to follow on screen and would have reduced the comedic impact of the moment. The error was not accidental, it was practical. The writers and prop team were building a visual joke, not a firearms tutorial, and the version that worked best on camera happened to be mechanically incorrect in a way that only a specific kind of viewer would ever notice. The mistake was significant enough that it became a plot point in the first season episode Andy and the Gentleman Crook, where the faulty loading method actually affected the storyline. The show had committed to the visual logic of the bit fully enough to build an episode around a mistake it had no intention of correcting. Fact 8. The show is one of 3 to end at number 1. When The Andy Griffith Show aired its final episode on April 1st, 1968, it was the most watched program in the country. Not slipping, not holding on, not still performing reasonably well. Number 1. The decision to end the series was made by Andy Griffith voluntarily, not because of declining ratings or network pressure, but because he felt the show had run its course and he wanted to leave while it was still at its best. Throughout its entire 8-season run, the show never fell below 7th place in the annual Nielsen ratings. That level of consistent performance across 8 years is remarkable even by the standards of an era with fewer channels and fewer competing options for viewers. Most successful shows follow a visible arc of peak popularity followed by gradual decline. The Andy Griffith Show maintained its audience without that decline ever arriving. Among the weird facts about the Andy Griffith Show, 1,960, this statistical achievement is the most clearly documented and the least frequently appreciated. Only 2 other series in American broadcast history have ended their runs, while sitting at number 1 in the yearly ratings. I Love Lucy concluded at the top in 1957. Seinfeld did the same in 1998. The Andy Griffith Show sits between them as the second show in television history to accomplish it. The rarity becomes clearer when you consider how many thousands of television series have been produced and how few of them ended on their own terms at the peak of their popularity. Most shows are canceled. Of those that are not, most continue until their ratings make the decision for them. Griffith made the choice himself and made it while the choice was entirely his to make. The reruns that followed continued to find audiences for decades afterward, which suggests he understood something about the show's durability that the network might not have if the decision had been left to them. Fact 7. Andy Griffith punched a wall and the writers covered for him. During the production of the show's second season, Andy Griffith lost his temper on set badly enough that he punched a wall with sufficient force to break bones in his hand. The exact cause of that moment of frustration has never been clearly identified in any behind-the-scenes account. What is documented is the aftermath, which created an immediate and visible problem for a production built entirely around its lead actor appearing in nearly every scene of every episode. The broken hand required significant medical bandaging that would be clearly visible on camera, regardless of how shots were framed. Halting production was not a practical option. Filming around the injury by keeping his hand out of frame was not consistently possible given the volume of scenes that needed to be shot. The production needed a solution that would explain the bandaging within the world of the show, rather than simply hope audiences would not notice it. Among the weird facts about the Andy Griffith Show, 1,960, the writer's solution is the part most people find satisfying. They quickly developed an in-show explanation suggesting that Sheriff Taylor had injured his hand while heroically apprehending dangerous criminals. The cover story fit the character well enough that it did not invite scrutiny. A small-town sheriff getting hurt in the line of duty was entirely plausible within the show's fiction. The explanation served everyone's interests. Griffith could continue working with a bandaged hand without the production stopping. Viewers had a reason for what they were seeing that did not require any knowledge of what had actually happened. And nobody on the production had to publicly acknowledge that the show's calm, wise, unflappable lead actor had punched a wall hard enough to injure himself. For viewers watching those second-season episodes today, with the context that later interviews provided, Griffith's bandaged hand is visible in several scenes as a record of a moment when the real man and the character he played were as far apart from each other as they ever got. Fact 6. Frances Bavier called Andy Griffith to apologize before she died. Frances Bavier came from a background that had very little in common with the character she played for 8 seasons. She was born into a comfortable family in New York City, educated at Columbia University and the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and carried herself with the refined sensibility of someone trained in the classical theater tradition. Aunt Bee was warm, folksy, and cheerfully domestic. Bavier was none of those things off camera and made no particular effort to pretend otherwise. Her working relationship with Andy Griffith was complicated by a fundamental difference in how the two of them approached the set. Griffith was a natural prankster who treated filming as a social environment, full of joking around between takes and light-hearted misbehavior that kept the cast loose. Bavier found this approach unprofessional and grating. She had little patience for his antics and did not share his appetite for comedy as a working style. The tension was noticeable to the people around them throughout the production. Among the weird facts about the Andy Griffith Show, 1,960, what happened decades later is the part that lands differently with time. Shortly before her death in 1989, Bavier reached out to Griffith by phone. The call was not social. She had called specifically to apologize for being difficult during their years working together on the series. The gesture required something real from a woman who had spent much of her professional life projecting self-sufficiency and precision. Making that call meant acknowledging a behavior pattern that had been visible to everyone around her for the better part of a decade. It also meant that after all the years of friction, she wanted the record between them to be something different from what it had been on set. Griffith received the call and the apology. Bavier died knowing she had made it. The warmth that viewers associated with Aunt Bee's relationship with Andy Taylor had not existed between the actors playing them, but the phone call Bavier made toward the end of her life suggests that something between the two of them had shifted in the years since the cameras stopped rolling. Fact 5. Opie was named after a swing-era musician. The name Opie Taylor did not emerge from any creative brainstorming session or deliberate character naming process. It was chosen as a tribute to a real person from the world of music, someone both Andy Griffith and producer Sheldon Leonard admired enough that they wanted his name to carry forward into their new series. Opie Cates was a band leader and clarinet player who had achieved genuine recognition during the swing era of the 1930s and 1940s, leading his own orchestra and performing the kind of popular dance music that defined entertainment during those decades. Cates was not a household name at the level of the most famous big band leaders of his era, but he was a respected and recognizable figure within the music world, known for his clarinet playing and his ability to lead a successful dance band. His music reached audiences through radio broadcasts and live performances at venues across the country during the years when big band sound dominated American popular culture. Among the weird facts about the Andy Griffith Show, 1960, this one reveals something about how people inside the entertainment industry carry their influences. Griffith and Leonard were both fans of Cates' work and had grown up listening to him during the years when his music was a regular presence. When they needed a name for the young son character in their series, they reached for someone whose work had meant something to them. Ron Howard spent 7 years playing a character whose name honored a musician that most of the audience watching him had never heard of. The name Opie became one of the most recognized character names in 1960s American television, attached to performances that helped launch one of the most successful directing careers in film history. Opie Cates' name is still known today primarily because two men who had been fans of his music decided to put it on a fictional child in a small-town sheriff's household. That is a specific kind of immortality that the musician himself could not have anticipated when he was leading his orchestra in ballrooms during the swing era. Fact 4. Only one black actor had a speaking role across 249 episodes. The Andy Griffith Show ran for 8 seasons and 249 episodes, set in a fictional North Carolina town that the show presented as a warm and representative slice of American life. Throughout that run, African-American actors appeared in the background of various scenes, visible as part of the Mayberry community without being included in the show's dialogue or storylines. That pattern held consistently across the vast majority of the series' entire broadcast history. The single exception occurred in an episode titled Opie's Piano Lesson, when actor Rockne Tarkington became the only African-American performer to speak actual lines during the show's entire run. It was a brief appearance in a supporting context, but it stood as the sole instance across 8 years and 249 episodes in which a black actor was given dialogue rather than a background position. Among the weird facts about the Andy Griffith Show, 1960, this one is the hardest to engage with as simply a curiosity, because it documents something significant about the choices the production made over a very long period. The show's creators were navigating the commercial realities and social anxieties of network television in the 1960s, and the pattern of inclusion without participation that defined their approach to black actors reflected both those pressures and the limitations of what they were willing to push against. Tarkington's appearance in Opie's Piano Lesson is a historically notable moment precisely because of how isolated it was. One speaking role in 249 episodes is not a gradual integration. It is the exception that defines the rule it breaks. The Andy Griffith Show is remembered with genuine warmth by most people who grew up watching it, and that warmth is real and not simply misplaced nostalgia. But the casting record across its 8 seasons is also part of what the show was, and Tarkington's single appearance is the most direct evidence of where the line was drawn and how rarely it moved. Fact 3. Barney Fife had at least 3 different middle names. In the first season episode, A Plaque for Mayberry, Barney Fife's full name was established in dialogue as Bernard Oliver Fife. It was a specific and official-sounding name, the kind of detail that a show with strong writing tends to introduce deliberately and then maintain for consistency. The detail was in the episode. Viewers who paid close attention heard it. It was Barney's name. By the 3rd season episode, Class Reunion, it was Milton. The writers had apparently not maintained any record of what had previously been established, and the character's middle name changed without any acknowledgement that it had been different before. A viewer who remembered the first season reference would have caught it. Most viewers would not have been keeping track across that many episodes and that many years. Among the weird facts about the Andy Griffith Show 1960, this continuity failure has a 3rd layer that makes it complete. Later episodes established that Barney's middle name began with the letter P, without specifying what the name actually was. By the time this reference appeared, the character had accumulated at least 3 different middle names across the series, none of them consistent with the others, and none of the changes ever addressed or explained within the show. The writers of the series were talented and produced material that has held up remarkably well across decades. The middle name situation suggests that nobody was keeping formal continuity records of character details established in earlier episodes, which was common practice in 1960s television production. Fans who have cataloged the show comprehensively have documented the inconsistency clearly. Barney Fife had one middle name in Season 1, a different one in Season 3, and a third letter in later episodes. His full legal name remains, in a technical sense, unresolved across the entire run of the show. Fact 2. A 1964 episode displayed the wrong American flag. In the fourth season episode Barney's Sidecar, which aired in January of 1964, Deputy Fife rode around Mayberry on his motorcycle with small American flags attached to the handlebars. The flags visible in those scenes showed 48 stars. The United States had been a 50-state country since 1960, when Hawaii's admission added the final star to the current flag design. By the time Barney's Sidecar was filmed and broadcast, the 48-star flag had been officially obsolete for nearly 4 years. The error likely came from the prop department using decorative flags that had been purchased or stored before the flag was updated, without anyone on the production noticing that they were putting outdated national symbols on a vehicle in an episode set in the contemporary 1960s. Prop budgets on television productions of that era were not large, and small decorative items were often sourced from existing inventory rather than purchased new for specific episodes. Among the weird facts about the Andy Griffith Show, 1960, this one is the most straightforwardly avoidable. The 48-star flag was not a subtle error. The change to 50 stars had been significant news in 1959 and 1960, when Alaska and Hawaii achieved statehood within months of each other. 4 years later, the current flag should have been familiar to everyone on the production. The mistake went unnoticed during filming, through editing, past the network review process, and out to the broadcast audience in January 1964 without anyone catching it. Eagle-eyed viewers who spotted the discrepancy during the original broadcast had no easy mechanism for reporting it, and the episode was preserved with the anachronism intact. Decades of syndication and home video releases have kept the 48-star flags visible to anyone watching the episode today. Barney Fife rode through Mayberry flying a flag that had been retired 4 years before the episode aired, and the show went on without it ever being corrected. Fact 1. Floyd's glasses changed between camera shots in the same scene. The Andy Griffith Show maintained generally strong visual consistency across its run, particularly impressive given the manual editing processes and less rigorous continuity supervision available in 1960s television production, which makes the continuity error in the fourth season episode The Rumor particularly notable, because it is not subtle and it occurs within a single scene rather than across episodes. During a scene in which Floyd Lawson is in conversation with other characters, his eyeglasses change between camera angles. The first angle shows him in one pair, with specific characteristics in the frame and temple design. When the camera cuts to a different angle of the same scene, Floyd is wearing a visually distinct second pair with different frames and a different profile. The transition is jarring once you see it, and the change happens within the same continuous conversation. Among the weird facts about the Andy Griffith Show, 1960, this one is the most entertaining because of how completely avoidable it was. Continuity errors of this kind typically occur when scenes are filmed across multiple days with different costume items being used on different shooting days without anyone verifying that they match. In Howard McNear's case, the likeliest explanation is that the wardrobe department had multiple, similar, but not identical pairs of glasses available, and the wrong pair was used for one portion of the filming without anyone on set noticing the difference. The error made it through editing and broadcast without being caught. Dedicated fans who have cataloged the show's bloopers have documented it as one of the more visible production mistakes in the series. It has become a specific pleasure for viewers who watch the episode knowing what to look for. Floyd's glasses changed themselves between camera angles in a scene that was filmed in a single afternoon on one of the most beloved television sets in the history of the medium. It remains in the episode, unchanged and unchangeable, a small permanent record of a day when the wardrobe department and the editing team both missed the same thing. The Andy Griffith Show spent 8 seasons presenting Mayberry as the kind of place where nothing much went wrong, and simple wisdom was always available from the right person at the right moment. The real story behind those 8 seasons was considerably more complicated, more human, and more interesting than the version that aired. Which of these facts surprised you most? Tell us in the comments below. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss one.